Hey there crew, it's Mark, and in today's video we are going to be flipping through my 2024 bullet journal. This is the first year where I've done a flip through at the end of the year instead of like doing a backlog of all my other journals. But I wanted to kind of show you how I've been utilizing this journal throughout the year, different spreads and ideas that I've been using, and talking more about how I use my bullet journal for work. This is a square arch and olive journal that I used, 160 GSM pages that are inside of this notebook, nice and thick. Absolutely love it so much. This was an older style that they had, and this has like that linen cover. And one of the things I don't love about the linen covers is that they do tend to get a bit dirty. So I see this partly well used, but also like, oh my gosh, I cannot wait to move on to a new journal. So you'll see like my edges. I just got this beautiful stain on the back of my notebook recently. So thank goodness it happened at the end of the year versus happening in the beginning, because that would have been a little troublesome for me. So when we crack open our notebook, I just have my name on the nameplate. Something that I did in this notebook, and you'll see it as we move through some of these main pages, I like to theme it a little bit when I get started. So a lot of the titles that are on my pages here will have this beautiful shiny ink. This was the color verse NGC 1850. So it's nice dark color with some little bit of shimmer in there just to get this party started. The first page that I have inside of here was intentions. This is something that I actually haven't done in my new journal just yet, but something that I do like to do often is just set those intentions for the year. So for this journal, I wanted this one to be about focusing on building my interest and passions for organization and creativity. I wanted to exercise more of my personal design, what I really liked, my aesthetic, and making that happen. And I really wanted to make sure that I was completing the task in the previous weeks. I have a bad habit still, and I know that I did inside of this one, of not always doing that, going back, making sure everything was checked off or moving it forward. We'll probably see it a little bit as we go through today. Professionally, I really wanted to focus down on operations. That is my job, and really work more around documentation. I don't know that I necessarily hit the mark on this one this year. I think I could have done a little bit better on that. So something to pay attention to for 2025 for sure. I also made some intentions for Mark Your Pages and what I wanted to do there. And the big thing here, and I do think that I stuck to this year, was making content because I wanted to, not because I felt like I had to. I think in previous years, it was all about getting out as many videos as I could, as many reels, as many posts, and you had to do a certain amount every single day. And that's just not the truth. And I'm really happy that I stuck to my guns on that one. This is my index. It definitely had more space than I needed for my index this year. And the reason that I haven't figured this quite out yet is previous years and previous notebooks, every single page that I had, I used to mark in here the week in which it was happening. So it would be each week would be noted, and I needed all of this space. But this year, I really just focused on my collection pages more than anything and be able to find those easily, because really when I'm done with the week, I'll jot down anything I need in a collection before I move on. So I don't really reference those as much. So this is as much as I used this year, and it's okay. Something different that I did with this notebook versus previous ones is this is the first year that I created a calendar future log. What I found in the past is that I like a future log. I don't always use them as best as I could potentially. However, I really enjoy planner calendars as well. And last year I used two notebooks, a planner as well as a notebook, in conjunction with each other. And I wanted to simplify that this year. So I built out these calendars for each of the months, wrote down all of the important dates in the calendar, also put anything I needed to remind myself up here in this top section. This is where more of the bullet journal future log kicks in. So if there's something that's happening in a week that I need to bring back or plan for the future, I would bring that and put that up inside of here. In the beginning of the year, I really focused down on the idea of creating these 2-week sprints for myself to accomplish certain tasks. So for the first few months, I did an okay job of that. And then as we went on, I did that less and less. And honestly, around April, I stopped doing it altogether. One of the big reasons that I set up with a Monday start for the week is I wanted to have that Saturday, Sunday space from a date perspective. However, I don't really use my bullet journal on the weekends. It really is focused in on work. So having this open space over here allowed me to put those tasks for those 2-week sprints that I was doing. The problem with the Monday start, if I'm being honest with you, is it was very confusing for me, especially when looking up a date. I would always be like one day off because my brain thinks that a week starts on a Sunday as it does on most calendars, and having this start on a Monday was a little troublesome, if I'll be honest with you. But I love jotting things down inside of my calendar, knowing exactly what was going on. I used a lot of pencil just in case things change, because they always do. And that's just something that I just found to be helpful. If that a date had to move or something happened, I could erase it versus writing it out if I used a pen or something like that. To easily find where my pages were, I used this little fountain pen paperclip throughout the year. That way I could just see it in the top of my notebook as I was working, and that way it was just an easy place to find if I needed to be like, oh, okay, I need to get back to my future log for something. I could easily see that on the top of my notebook and get back to it versus utilizing, one of the page holders that was inside of here for it. I'd rather use these for meetings or things that were coming up instead. So now that we're at the end of this, I can go ahead and carry this one over to my new notebook. The first page inside of this journal was a tracker. I set this up before the beginning of the year. And then I had a bunch of viral videos that happened in November of 2023 before we went into this journal that basically took me from 25,000 well over 27, 28,000 before we even got into the new year. And we had the same exact thing happen on YouTube as well, where it built very quickly over a short amount of time. And then essentially my tracker was done before I even started in this year, which is kind of crazy. Now, I did set up a goals page for myself last year and then realized as I was just prepping for this video that I never filled it out. However, I did put goals on a different page, which we will see. So the idea of making sure that they actually make it onto the pages that you create are very important. I liked the way that it looked. It had a functionality to it. I just never wrote the goals here. I wrote them somewhere else instead. One of my most helpful collection pages in my journals, especially for my job, is a help desk tracker. On this tracker, I put whenever I'm putting a request to the help desk, whether it's for laptop accessories, whether it's for specific updates or apps or whatever that is, I write all that down in here and the date in which I requested that. Sometimes things don't happen as quickly as I would necessarily want them to, and I need to check back up on them again. So being able to reference these are really important, and I've already carried this over into my new journal as well. I have my one-on-one page. I spend that time with my manager. We also have the design community page. So at work, we have about 150 different designers, UX designers, graphic designers, content designers, a part of our big community. And I host Lunch and Learn, as well as on the lead team for that as well. So I jot all of my notes down in here for the design community as we go into it. This was a follow-up for my one-on-one page. I think everything on here is okay to go through. Since I use this for my professional life, I do like to be a little bit careful, especially with names or things like that that are inside of here. So if I cover anything up, it's just for their privacy. I haven't asked for their permission yet to be able to show them in my journal. So I just like to respect that. But I think everything on here is pretty good. This was used at the end of the year for my end of year review, things that I want to focus on for the new year. I'll actually utilize this information here to help set up goals for 2025 for myself. But this is just great feedback that I got, things that I want to focus on and continue through. And these are the types of notes that I write in my one-on-one with my boss or anything that I want to cover specifically. So this was the very first weekly spread that I had inside of this bullet journal. I was pre-printing my capacity sheets for the team, but you'll see eventually I kind of run out. I don't think I reprinted any of those in the future, but this is just a good example of what my weekly views will look like. We'll look at a whole lot of weekly ideas as I go throughout, and I love changing them out. The big important things for me really are what's going on during the week, what to-dos do I have, and what notes do I have, and making sure that I'm doing everything that I need to do throughout the week. I'm going to do my best not to repeat myself every single page because there are a lot of weekly spreads that are inside of here. Instead, what I'll do is talk about maybe what I liked about these spreads and maybe what I didn't like so much instead of just saying, here's another weekly spread, because I'll be saying that a lot. This is just a different layout. You'll see all of my weekly spreads for the most part focus on a Monday through Friday overview and then space for my task and my notes and everything that's going on. This one I used a stencil for this January and just did some lines. I also used stickers instead of stamps. I just had some writing inside of here and kept it pretty nice and easy. More than likely, I found a bunch of stickers and was like, I want to use them more. So anytime I find something, I'm like, oh, I'd like to do more with that, I start to use them inside of my journal. So these are two different pages here. The first one over here is my Ops Monthly. In design operations, I love a community around that. And there just happens to be some of my friends that work in the operations space as well. So we meet once a month and we talk about different topics, what's going on, what's happening with us. And so that's a collection page that I keep inside of here. I love having it as a recurring note section, talk about anything, topics we want to hit on in the future. So just a really good example for a collection page for meetings. This page over here was an idea that I had. I made it into a collection page because I was focusing in on project stage gates for work and breaking down what would happen in each one of these phases. And for me personally, I just really like the idea of writing things out before I take it digital. As a designer, that's something that I learned early on. Don't go directly to the digital tool. Start with a sketch or an idea. And this was super helpful for me to organize my ideas first, kind of write them all out before I took them into a digital form, and then eventually presented this to my boss. So for this page here, I use some Eric Small Thing stamps. It's like one of my favorite like desktop collections, I think is the name of it. And it just has such cool things with it. I thought I'd be fun with these little glasses over here and put the day of the week and the date, but it is so tiny you can barely see the dates inside of there. But I do love the stapler. I do love the lamp. I love kind of figuring out how to use these things together, and it worked out really well. This is another collection page from one of the tools that I use. I'm the admin for Figma for my team, so there's a lot of ads, there's a lot of renewals and notes and figuring stuff out. It's fun and relentless all at the same exact time. All right, so remember I told you about those 2024 goals that I didn't put inside of my goals page? Well, this is where they ended up on their own collection page as I figured these out. The thing is I don't have to create these until the end of January is when they're all due. And I just ended up putting them here. Honestly, I probably forgot that I had that collection page in the very front of this notebook as things were going on. But this is where I created them, when I needed to have them done, what I was focused on. And we also put this into a digital format at work to track them as well. So I put them inside of there. I made it happen, but they started here inside of my notebook. I also had a page for Confluence, which is a tool that we use, and just some check marks on things I needed to do to get a space up and running. This page here, I use stencils and I use distressed oxide ink. So the stencil goes on top and then you go ahead and you rub the ink over top of it. I love doing it. It's super easy to set up. I think I had a stencil from something for the days of the week and I thought, oh, this can work out really well. Let's see how it works. And everything was cool. Stamped the dates on here, just wrote in the days of the week. And it was pretty cool. Continued with that look over here for notes and tasks and just really focused it on what was happening during the week. So for this week, I got my hands on some dot markers, clearly just dotted in the days of the week and put the dates inside of here too. I started reusing my Eric Small Things calendar, which was here. So this is the first time that I was utilizing these. I just cut them out from dates that had been previous and then just used a glue stick to paste them in. I love reusing that kind of stuff and like finding another purpose for it after the date has been done. And I literally have an entire envelope filled with them. So I'll be cutting those out and using them in my next bullet journal. This weekly spread was great. I had just gotten some brand new stamps from Everyday Explorers Co. and I loved them so much. Anytime I get anything from Christine, I'm just like, I gotta use it immediately. This was a work-focused one, and it is perfect. We had the work over here for the capacity that I track for my team, things to remember, days of the week, and then just big notes and a list section. I love the headers for these so much. It's so nice and easy to use stamps inside of a bullet journal. I know people get a little bit scared of it because you're like, I'm gonna make a mess, but if you have a good stamp and just good ink and it dries quickly, you have nothing to worry about, and it just looks so nice and clean, and I just love it so much. This over here is another program that I'm a part of at work, and we were scheduling things out for half of the year and taking notes. This is just a really great way, again, that I start something analog, and then eventually this moves into a digital space instead. I love having this from my view, though, and being able to come back and take a look at it and change if I need to, but I do need to remind myself that it needs to be transferred back to a digital space for everyone else, because not everyone's inside of my bullet journal. This was a one-page weekly that I did for February, a little mix and match that we have in here. We have Eric Small Things stamps here at the top, some Eric Small Things washi, Eric Small Things stamps. When I tell you that I love Eric Small Things, it's very clear, right? And everything that we have here. This is a bit of a smaller section that I did, so I just focused on my top priorities that I needed to take care of, and then used this just for daily rapid logging, notes, and to-dos all put together. This is a collection page for a course that I took this year, which was called Project Management for the Unofficial Project Manager, which is exactly my role at work. I'm not a project manager, however, I do project management stuff. So this was just the notes that I took from that course. I keep that all inside of here, and I actually refer back to these notes pretty often throughout the year. Just a really great reference page to have, something I can go back to. I have it in my index so I can find it easily when I need the information. So just another really great example of collection pages for notes. This was just a really quick one-page weekly that I did in February. Overview, dates, task, and notes. Like pretty straightforward. Didn't have to worry too much about it. It's the week of my birthday, and I'm happy that the pages worked out here pretty well. This weekly spread was done just with different colored pens that I had. Pretty sure that these are the Sarasa vintage clip ones that I got, probably because I absolutely love this color so much. But just created flags inside of here, some lettering for everything during the week, small weekly overview, mostly for meetings and events and things that were going on. And then each day I just did a rapid log for it. So there was no major planning in advance other than things that were over here. All of the notes just happened day by day. So Monday was here, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday somehow only had one thing to do. I think I was probably just trying to save space more than anything than creating a new page. But this is a good example of how you can create a weekly overview and mix that along with daily logging and still make it work out well for yourself if you wanted to keep it simple. This is a mix of a pen test along with a sketch for a work project as well. Why I did this, I don't know. It lives on here. I'm like, oh, here's an entire wireframe of something. Oh, and I must have had a brand new nip that I wanted to write with as well. All right, I absolutely love this page so much. So I had just gotten a brand new stamp set from Tim Holtz, and I loved this one so much. I love the gears and the intricacy and details of this stamp. I just used it and essentially turned it on its side for the notes and tasks, like big page over here, had a big, huge guy's head over here. And I thought this just all works really well together. Continued using my vintage pen inside of here for the days of the week and just keeping it pretty straightforward with everything else, notes and tasks, daily logging over here. This is just a one-pager that I had, continuing to use the pens that I had. Obviously, I really loved using these colors. Like, it just worked out well. A little bit of a different approach for here where I just broke it into 3 main columns. We had the overview, capacity notes, and the notes and tasks that were over here on this page. So this page here, I had a collection of stickers that I must have purchased, probably from Cute Things from Japan, and just used everything on that sticker sheet. That's why everything looks very cohesive on this page. Each of the days of the week got a tree sticker over here, and I just did some lettering for notes and tasks and capacity and collected all the information that I needed. Another new stamp day from Everyday Explorers. You can always tell when I got new stamps because I used them immediately. This was kind of like a ticket overview. We've got dates, we've got days of the week. Love the way this one looked. We also had some currently inked, so I knew what pen I was using and the ink color. I want to do this more throughout the year. I'm just not sure where to do it, if it's inside of my journal or in a different type of journal, but I really love just documenting the pens and the ink colors that I used in my fountain pens. It's just a lot of fun. I got to find a better way to do that. This was a double page, so it was the overview over here on the left and then all of my tasks and notes and everything over here on the right-hand page. This is also a really great example why I love square notebooks. This is a lot of space to use for a full week, and I mean that in the best way. I have room, I have space, and I don't feel like I'm running out or using several pages like I used to do inside of my A5 journals. I'd use maybe 3 or 4 pages a week, and that just felt like a lot. I like condensing everything down to like 1 page or 1 spread and it feeling self-contained. More collection pages here. We talked about internal kickoffs and like things that we wanted from these pages. This is actually something that I'm continuing to do into the new year, so I have to actually mark this page. This is turning out to be a very productive video, both from a visual standpoint of you checking this out, plus me reminding myself I have things I need to do still. One of the things about my bullet journal is that not all of my pages are consistent from a standpoint of how much they get used. Sometimes it's just a light week and I'm not taking out a lot of notes and tasks, or sometimes I'm just working out of my inbox, which isn't a great thing for me to do because once those things are gone or more emails come in, I don't remember them anymore. So I do need to do a better job of bringing things back into my journal of things that I'm accomplishing. Even if I've already done the task, just documenting it is really important for me, I think. This was definitely a light week because Go Wild happened, so I only had a handful of things that I needed to do this week. I would think I was only in the office, honestly, for 1 day. So we had a few tasks I needed to do, but I loved using these beautiful stickers that were on here. I need to find more of these. They were so cool. And then everything else over here was just getting ready for Go Wild and making that happen. What a cool experience. So now we're in April and I had some specific things I wanted to focus on. And anytime I do that, I'll create like a little section. This is just called my big 3. And these were like the big things I needed to try to accomplish this week. Yes, they can go inside of here and I can focus on them in here, but sometimes calling them out specifically just works out better for me. This was a super fun one. These are stickers that I had gotten from an order and I was like, I'm going to make it work. I also have this like, I call it my Sailor Jerry font. It's like a tattoo, kind of old looking font. And like pairing all this stuff together, I think worked out really well. I'm not big on like color theming necessarily, but if you have the stamps or the stickers that kind of pull everything together, I think that's awesome. So partnering those with this hand font just looks super cool. I kept these. I just have these letter stickers that I just pop in. They look so cool and so clean. I love this page a lot. I do a lot of surveys at work, so a lot of the times I will write down the things that I need to pull out of a survey before I move into actually creating that survey. So this is just a good example of that. Again, showing you how I use my bullet journal for work, not just weekly tasks and notes. These were the things that we need to pull out. Do people want to learn about these things? And I was collecting them from different areas and just writing them down as I went. And this gave me a really great outline that I could use to then build out that digital form that I sent. Well, this was definitely a colorful week. Look at me doing some of that. We had our daily overview over here, creating some colored drop shadows inside of those boxes, task and to-dos with some stamps over here, and just having a good time. I also tried to utilize one of the stamps that I have for the capacity tracking. So I'd put their name here and then their number. It actually worked out pretty well, but I have so many people that are on my team that I needed to create 3 boxes for it. And then we had some people that were out, so I only needed 2, but still a good reminder that I like to use these and should use them more. This page here was super cool. So these are these transfer, they're kind of like stickers, but they're not sticky, but you put them on the page and then you have a tool like this guy here, and then you rub them. They're like rub-on transfers. And this is just really cool lettering that I got. I think I just got them from the dollar store. So you just use them, you cut them out, and I put them in here for the days of the week. Some light lettering over top of here. Pretty sure this is after I got my Tom Studio pen. So I had one side for a brush pen with a lighter color, and then the other side had this blue color in there. So just playing around with a little bit and having fun with my stationery pens. More fun with my Tom Studio pen, just using just a single color, day of the week task. This is another good example where like not a whole lot happened task-wise. I had to get things done. There's still some open things that are over here too, so hopefully I brought them over. If not, I just need to pay attention and remember these. I might have to go through this, just make sure I accomplished everything this year. I'm sure if someone needed something, they would have told me. I also tried to bring over the pen of the day and the ink and stuff like that. Just reminding I have this stamp set and I want to use it more. That's why I was thinking like maybe I put it somewhere else. But I also like having it in my bullet journal too as a nice way. I just have to remember to like bring this out every week, and I feel like that might be a little bit of a pain in the butt. All right, so this week is really funny. So a lot of the times if I'm working on something for content. So in this case, I was working on an Archer and Olive video talking about how you can use fountain pen inks in different ways. So I put fountain pen ink and I diluted it with some water and put it inside of a water brush. So I was using that for a video that I was doing, and then as I was setting up my week, I was like, well, I might as well just continue using it. I've already created this water brush with this ink inside of it. So we found ourselves a nice little quote, let's always believe that something wonderful will happen. I probably just needed some positivity in my life, and whenever I do, I'll like search out a quote to remind myself of that. I had some of these stickers left over. I also at this time, if I remember correctly, was reorganizing my sticker collection. So I probably was like, let's just start using these before they go bad. Days of the week, overview, and then notes and tasks were over on this section. But, you know, this was contained to here. I didn't end up using a lot of this space over here. So all of this here is actually from interviews that we were doing as a part of our design community. One of the programs that I use, we were asking about onboarding. So we interviewed a bunch of different people. So I was going through, was just taking notes. I was using a fountain pen. I was probably drinking water or something. And this ink was not waterproof. So a little fun and excitement over here for that. But just love writing long form sometimes inside of here. I also remember I was using the Tom Studio pen, which had an architect nib on it. And I love writing with that fountain pen. I need to bring it back out again because I love it so much. I need to put like different ink in there though, because I feel like this would look really cool with like a cool sheen or maybe a little shimmer or something in it. It puts down a lot of ink, that's for sure. All right, I'm not sure why I had a creepy looking weekly overview in June. I know more than likely I got this stamp set in June and then wanted to use it and felt like it had a very classic antique horror type of vibe to it. So we have our different glass cylinders here. We have some frames for the days of the week. We have our capacity section here. So just experimenting with those stamps, trying to theme things. But as you can see, I am not great at theming things. I know that I'm not, but I have a lot of fun while I do it. This week was definitely interesting. I don't really remember what I was using. Some kind of a pen, obviously, that was more of a calligraphy nib. I don't usually write in cursive, I write in print, but for whatever reason, the pen I was using must have really lent itself more to like cursive writing and more calligraphy type writing. I do like this ink color though. Like this is why I need to put more of those stamps in here around like what I was using. What pen and what ink combination was this? Because it looks really good. This is a counterexample to those slow weeks where there's so much going on that I'm just filling up my pages. Weekly overview, just some lettering with colors inside, and then just tons of notes, tons of tasks, just everything happening. These are the type of weeks that make me feel really productive. Clearly, I got some new stamps over here. These are like washi stickers, which are really cool. I don't know that I've really used them before. This must have been one of the first times I did. And I need to bring them back out because they look really cool, but just a lot of stuff going on, task, capacity, overview, and then just a crap ton of notes happening over here. I even put a section over here for like what's next week and what's happening. This is just a reminder for me as I'm going into that new week to bring those things over and to remind my team about them as well. So I challenged myself this week to obviously using one pen or just all black, no color or anything like that. And I must have been using a stencil or something to get some of these shapes, but who knows what I was thinking, like from a design perspective with like filling these in with dots or a plus minus, like what is even that? This is definitely a fun week, again, using Distress Oxide and stencils throughout the week. I love these hex patterns. They're like one of my favorite shapes to use. It looks kind of futuristic and new, and it's clean and looks good. And I just mix that in over top of a general layout. So the way that this worked from a process standpoint is I have my weekly overview across the top and I set all of this up. I knew somewhat of my spacing on how I wanted to fill these in, but I didn't do the Distress Oxide until after I finished the layout. So these numbers, for instance, are very close. While I planned it a little bit, wasn't all the way, but for the most part worked out well. Sometimes these weeks just work out so well. This is pretty basic from a standpoint of what I used, a highlighter and black pen. But when I tell you that I love how clean this looks and just the simplicity of it, it makes me love bullet journaling even more because visually it looks cool, but it's very minimalistic. And then from a notes and task standpoint, very productive week as well. Very similar to that previous week. If I like something a lot, I tend to stick with it for a little bit. So we have just a one pager here, weekly overview, task and notes and capacity. But again, keeping those simple lines, 2 colors, black and another color in addition to it. And I think it looks pretty cool. This is probably one of my favorite spreads from this past year because I loved using these fountain pen stamps that I had. I got these from the DC Pen Show and I was like, oh, I have to use these nibs. They're so cool looking. And what I like about it the most though is this overlap that's happening. And then we've got the container boxes that kind of feed up into the base of the next one. So just visually, I just love how this one turned out. It worked very well functionally as well, but that's definitely my favorite part here at the top. You know, it's a good time. Just got the Archer and Olive stamps for this. Loved the camera and the pencils and kind of all the pieces that came along with that. So I decided to kind of carry that through everything here. We had the little tabs here for the top. So I used the days of the week here for that with the tabs for the top and the dates that I captured here. And then just a lot of stamps here, details, what's happening, some different color ink up here at the top. This was a fun week as well. We must have had Monday off, so I just did a Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday overview, notes and to-dos to kind of get things started. Had these really cool stickers from Pipsticks. These I got during Go Wild and just adding them in here to add a little bit extra fun. Look at Mark trying to be earthy. I used these Eric Small Things stickers over here, outdoorsy look, and I thought let's continue through that with some of the pen usage and the ink usage and the stamp usage here. While it's not the busiest of weeks, still like the way it looks. Something a little bit different every single week. Some more Eric Small Things stickers across the top for that overview. I definitely needed more space for task and notes. That's why this page is almost totally dedicated to notes, and we had all the space over here for the tasks. Every week is a bit different. I don't always know what exactly to expect. And while I can plan ahead, it's still kind of an unknown. But when I set up my weekly, I take a look at my calendar. Some weeks you just know it's going to be busier than others. All right, so this page cracks me up a lot. So we saw these stickers before earlier. They're just black ones you stick onto the page. I mix these with a texture kind of pattern stamp in the background. And then over here, I set this up for capacity, notes, and tasks. And every time I flip through this page, I don't see capacity, notes, and task. I see the see you next Tuesday every single time, and I just laugh to myself and think, Mark, what were you thinking? Which just goes to show that I wasn't thinking. I thought it looked cool. It made sense for me for the titles, but I totally didn't see what word could have been potentially spelled out from capacity, notes, and tasks. Absolutely love this week. I was excited to use a different stamp ink. I so often just go directly with black. I took out something a bit different. So we have an Eric Small Think stamp container or frame around here, which I love with all the little icons in there. And then I also got a new block stamp around this time, probably while I'm using it, that had these really cool letters in there. They've got the patterns in them, half solid, half pattern. So we did the days of the week. So we did Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. A C for capacity, an N for notes, T for tasks, and just kept it pretty simple. And I like the way this one looks. All right, this page did extremely well over on Reels. When I did my plan with me in a Reel, this video has almost 500,000 views, which is insane to me that many people have seen it. But I had so much fun setting it up. This was another stamp set that I got from Tim Holtz. I got this at my Joann's store, and I mixed this in with some fun ways, I think. The weekly overview has the dates in there, but there was this like number sample stamp that came along with it, and I decided to use them as those headers and then just mix in the days of the week and what's happening. I also use this beautiful ink from Birmingham Pen Company. It's called Jupiter Vortex Twinkle, and it is just the coolest thing. It's like liquid metal, and I love the way it looks. For capacity over here, I really love this too. They had these little figure stamps that would be used for like a medical notebook, or in this case, like an outside foliage notebook. And then I used those for the capacity for my team that week. And just everything about this just turned out really nicely. And I like the way that it looks. Something happened over here with some smeared ink and probably some stuff up here, but this is a used notebook. This is how things tend to look in here. This page is really cool. It's a mix of a few different stamp creators as well as some other cool stationery that I had. So these days of the weeks that I got, these were from Carrie Bradford Studios, brand new stamps that I just got. And then these over here were those press-on transfers. I had gotten these from like the clearance rack at Joann's, and they're like little paint swatches. So I put each of those for the days of the week, which look cool, and then added the extra task lists and quick notes just to create a cool little stamp looking deal. Again, fully cohesive, not necessarily a lot of different themes going on here, but it works, and that's what I need. Another really fun week happening here, using a mix of things. I had just got my die cutter, which I need to use more. This is how my brain works. I only want to die cut stuff, and then now I haven't used it for like a month. But I utilized the extra calendar pieces that I talked about earlier and keeping, and I put them through the die cut with this stamp, and then I just glued them in here for the days of the week. Put in that curly ink. I was using the little hollow customs, and then using that with a oyster gray color here, which, you know, I like the way that it looked. It turned out really nice. I didn't use the don't forget section here. I should have used those, similar to like my big three or things I've done before. And then we have our capacity down over on this section, notes, to-dos. What can I say? I love Everyday Explorer Co. They just have all the coolest things. And anytime I can get a stamp that is a header that makes sense for me, I'd rather use that than writing it in myself, if I'm being honest. Also use this for some interviews that we did for hiring. So I am the first line of interviews with my team, and it's part of my job with onboarding and interviewing. So I kept it all in one spot. That way I could easily compare notes. And then I also put this into a digital space where everyone else that was a part of the interview process added their notes too. So I keep notes while we're talking, and I just transfer them to a digital space to talk with everyone later on. All right, this is a little bit more of a recent page. This is my cool little Midori guy. He's Uncle, and I just used his stamps across the top. I had just picked up these stamp sets from Atlas Stationers and just try to use them instantly. And he's so fun, and he has so much going on, and I really love the way that he turned out for this week. The layout's pretty big. I like using big spaces sometimes, and he just felt like he needed that space. And I thought I was gonna have a lot more going on that I maybe necessarily did, at least for the weekly overview. If I were to redo this page, I would kind of cut it maybe right about here and then kind of moved everything up to give the notes section a little bit more space, because we ended up kind of cramping up at the end of the week. But love the use of the ink and using like a monoline nib for that, mixed with this cool little guy and coloring him. It's just a fun page. I don't always love the way that my weekly spreads look, and sometimes it happens with the start of an idea, but then I don't continue that idea. So I had just gotten this washi tape, and I thought, like, I really want to use it somehow. Like, how might I? And I started with like this December layout part here, and this vertical piece, and then a vertical piece for the notes. But I was like, I need tasks, but I didn't want to use a whole extra page for it. It was a short week. So it just ended up looking like this. I'm not happy about it, but at the same time, I'm not mad at it. It's just there. And then that's going to lead us to here, which is actually going to be my last full weekly spread for 2024. This, I used the brand new stamp set as well as the ink stamp set that came to the part of the Arch and Olive subscription box, and then just had the rest for all of my notes and tasks. And this is really where everything is going to wrap up for me, if I'm being honest with you. This is where the rest of my clean pages come in. There might be a handful of things that I might need to jot down or note or do. It's always sad to say goodbye to one notebook, but I'm so incredibly excited for my new 2025 notebook. This notebook makes me proud because this is the one that I designed with Archer and Olive. So I'm using something that I actually designed, and this notebook so far is just turning out to be really cool. I did a similar thing with my weeklies. I'm already planning in advance for a lot of this. I'm ready to go for my goals. I have a new help desk section here. So this is just going to be a lot of fun to get up and running and just start using again. And I can't wait to just make some magic happen. If you're interested in checking out more flip throughs, I've actually done a few of these. I don't think I've caught up to my backlog just yet, but I'll go ahead and put that over here for you to check out if you want to check out more flip throughs of my past bullet journals. Thanks for hanging out, friends. See ya.